Imagine being lost in a remote snow-covered forest. The wind howls around you, and the cold seems to seep into your very bones. Suddenly, the rustling of leaves catches your attention. You turn to find nothing except the deep, unsettling feeling that something is watching you. Something hungry. You don't know it yet, but you have just stepped into the world of the Wendigo. The Wendigo is one of the most terrifying and enduring legends in North American folklore. Emerging from the traditions of the Algonquian peoples, it's a creature tied to hunger, isolation, and the loss of humanity. The Wendigo, at its core, is a symbol of insatiable greed and the consequences of giving into it. But what exactly is the Wendigo? Where did it come from? And why does it still haunt our imaginations today? The Wendigo, or Windigo, originates in the folklore of the Algonquian-speaking people, including tribes like Ojibwe, Cree, and Innu. The creature itself was not just a monster, but a powerful moral lesson. The Wendigo represents greed, excess, and the consequences of losing control over one's base desires. In the harsh, unforgiving landscapes of the northern forests, where food was scarce and survival was a constant struggle, the Wendigo was used to warn against the dangers of cannibalism. The myth is deeply tied to the spiritual beliefs of these communities. The Wendigo isn't merely a creature of flesh and blood, it's a spirit, often associated with the curse of transformation. The spirit can possess humans, especially those who commit unforgivable sin of cannibalism in desperate times. The Wendigo's appearance is as chilling as its nature. Depending on the storyteller, descriptions of the Wendigo vary sometimes. It's a Guan skeletal figure with pale skin stretched tight over a bony frame. Other accounts depict it as a towering with elongated limbs and monstrous sharp claws. In some versions, the creature has glowing eyes, antlers, or a mouth filled with jagged teeth, almost like a predatory animal. But one thing remains consistent in all descriptions. The Wendigo is always starving, an insatiable hunger that consumes it endlessly. And that hunger, it's not just for food, it's for human flesh. In many Wendigo tales, the creature is born from a human who has been forced to resort to cannibalism in order to survive. Imagine being trapped in a blizzard, starving with no hope of escape. In such desperate conditions, the temptation to consume human flesh could become overwhelming. But in the Wendigo myth, giving into that temptation has dire consequences. Once someone eats human flesh in these legends, they are cursed. The act of cannibalism transforms them into the Wendigo, forever cursed with an insatiable hunger that drives them to madness. They are no longer human, but a monstrous entity with a craving that can never be satisfied, and worse, they can never stop hunting for more. The Wendigo myth also intersects with history in ways that might surprise you. In the 19th century, the term Wendigo psychosis was coined by Western medical professionals to describe a rare but real condition where individuals became obsessed with the idea of cannibalism. It was seen as a form of madness that could take hold of someone in extreme hunger or isolation. This psychological condition was observed in isolated areas, especially in times of famine, or when survival in harsh winters pushed people to the brink. Some individuals in these regions, overcome by a belief that they are transforming into a Wendigo, would act out violently, attempting to cannibalize others. In some tragic cases, these individuals were even believed to have been possessed by the Wendigo spirit itself. While the Wendigo has ancient roots, it has also found a place in modern popular culture. From horror films to video games, The Wendigo has evolved into a creature of nightmares, but these modern adaptations often stray far from the original cultural context, turning the Wendigo into more of a generic monster or villain. Films like Antlers, TV series like Supernatural, and video games such as Until Dawn and The Long Dark have taken the myth and reimagined it for a contemporary audience, often portraying the Wendigo as a terrifying, flesh hungry monster lurking in the wilderness. But while these adaptations have made the Wendigo a figure of modern horror, they often miss the deeper symbolism of the original myth. The Wendigo isn't just a monster to fear, it's a warning. At its heart, the Wendigo is a symbol. It's a reflection of humanity's darker impulses: greed, consumption, and the loss of self control. It embodies the dangers of excess, whether it's an insatiable desire for food, power, or wealth. The Wendigo serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the consequences of letting those urges take over. In a modern context, the Wendigo can be seen as a metaphor for the environmental crisis we face, driven by overconsumption and the depletion of resources. The monster's hunger can be seen as a parallel to the way of our society consume without regard for the consequences. The Wendigo, in all its terrifying forms, is more than just a creature of folklore. It's a reflection of human fears, the dangers of giving in to greed, and a warning against the loss of humanity. Whether you encounter it in the ancient forests or in the modern world, the Wendigo remains a powerful symbol of the darkness that can arise when we forget the balance between survival and the preservation of our souls. So the next time you're alone in the woods, or perhaps alone in your thoughts, ask yourself, what happens when hunger takes over? And what are we willing to consume to survive?